So see right here, so stay home. Here, these two guys too. Try to see right here, come on. You good? Couple in the back too. Come on, come on. Oh, the next guy that comes back though, you're gonna create a door jam. Find that just a couple next to Gray. Load off. All right, 6:30. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Last safety meeting before Thanksgiving, so again we'll be off next Friday. So let's really take less information in today. Good to see everybody. So this code of conduct is strive for restraint, discretion, integrity. It's one of my favorite code items. And it's a really good one to kind of self-analyze, self-reflect of our behaviors out there and how we're conducting our business on a day-to-day. It's a good one. So quick little safety news. We got a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to go kind of quick, but 48 days. Hey, another 7 days without a recordable injury. Let's keep this momentum going. We're like at the fourth quarter of the year. We got like about a month left. Let's really try to finish this season strong. Continue using all of our safety systems that we have implemented and using all your resources so we can continue to eliminate all of our exposures out there so we can go home safe and sound each and every day. Our record, just like I thought, a little highlight record, it was 145 days that we had early in the year. So again, that's something that's a little goal, kind of getting goal oriented right now, trying to think about 2018, what some of the goals that we can implement. You know, one is that 145 day that we did this year. That's something that we can continue to work to. And one quick announcement, I think there's some flyers going around, but we will be offering flu shots. I think Ken also has it in the announcement today, but it'll be 2 Fridays from now. We'll be giving out free flu shots in this back room from 7 to 9. Quick little thing on hand injuries. All right, this has been one of our biggest exposures in 2017 is our hand injuries. So a little quick statistics here. 5 out of 14 since 2016 of our recordables, about 36% have been hand-related injuries, lacerations, crushing, pinching, those types of pinch points. So, you know, some statistics that we see out there is about 92% are preventable. So these are some of the things that, you know, we don't think about, we don't pay attention to. We get a little complacent, we put our hands where we shouldn't, and bad things happen. So just try to raise the awareness this week and continuing throughout the construction season that we have here about where we're placing our hands and what type of gloves we're wearing and what type of our work we're doing. Quick little thing on behavior-based safety when it comes to prevention. All right, some things to ask yourselves before you do it or when you're thinking about it or you're looking what your coworkers are doing is, where am I about to place my hands? Okay, think about it first, you know. Are there sharp edges or crushing pinch points or chemical hazards around? Where are our hazards? Can I use tools blocking or guarding to eliminate our hazard? That's part of that elimination of our hierarchy of controls that we talk about. These are really good questions to ask yourself kind of why you're doing or really thinking about what you're doing. And then do I have the appropriate type of gloves to protect me from identifying the hazards? Again, that PPE is our last line of defense. You know, so it's kind of more of that behavior-based safety that we've been talking about is asking ourselves some of those types of questions before we start putting our hands in places. You know, a lot of times we don't think about, we're just doing, we're trying to get the job done. But if we can kind of step back and think about some of these just quick 4 or 5 questions, you know, we might be able to prevent some of these hand injuries that we're having. Is there any questions? Okay, I'll pass it over to Ken.
Thanks, Matt.
That's the winner these days. And handouts there.
All right, we have a bunch of handouts here. Okay, we'll start with the announcements. We've got daily reports and time cards are due at the end of this Friday because next week is a short week, of course, with Thanksgiving. So payday is actually Wednesday, the 22nd. So that really compresses the schedule for the accounting administrative staff. So they have to process the entire payroll for the whole company in like a day. So if at all possible, the goal should be to have everything in tonight. At the end of the day, if you're working Saturday, then get it in as soon as you leave here. And if you can't make all that, then you absolutely have to have it first thing Tuesday morning. Probably, Doug, what time is it? Monday morning. Are we starting early?
They'll be at 7.
7. So Megan will be there at 7. So let's see. Roll this up. Here we go. Okay. So our advisor for the 401k will be here on December 8th. That's a couple weeks from now. And if there are any current enrollees who would like employment, let Sarah know. If you're a new enrollee, you'll be automatically pushed to get that initial consultation. Open enrollment for healthcare. So we have 2 gentlemen here from Northern Benefits to talk about our new program. And this coming time right now is the open enrollment. So if you decided not to get health care previously, if you don't when you first become an employee, if you defer that, you have to wait until the enrollment period. And here we are coming up to the enrollment period, so you have to start the process like now. So let Sarah know. And also check your today's paycheck, and we have these new rates, the new plan specs can be picked up at the front office. So we'll talk about all this in a moment. And then Thanksgiving holidays, of course, next week. That's Thursday and Friday, 23rd and 24th. And as Matt said, the flu shots are coming up 2 weeks from today. So just a thing propaganda thing from Nortrax. They obviously like to promote their clients, and they have a publication. I don't know whether it's quarterly or what, but they did a profile on ECI, and we made a copy of that. And they gave us this plaque with this thing, an appreciation for our friends at Nortrax, your friends at Nortrax. And just a couple pictures of some of the projects we've done, and I guess we put this plaque up in the front office. Give some odd quotes. I don't know how they assign nice sounding quotes to you when you get interviewed for these things. I certainly don't remember exactly saying that. Oh, technical tip too. We're still talking about levels and measuring distances, and in this case elevations. And it wasn't too long ago that every grade foreman on an earthwork project carried a pocket level, and I have one here with that. It's telescopic level, and basically you look in for the horizontal line to indicate your level, and there's a little bubble which is here reflected on the surface. So pocket levels are becoming less common in construction because layout is performed quickly, more accurately, and more efficiently with auto level, optical, and laser devices. Or these simple and quickly deployed pocket devices are still useful in construction layout on earthwork projects. They're ideally suited for checking intermediate grades with grade sticks, which are still used on some projects, right? 4 grade marks. Their range is typically limited to probably about 25 feet in the order of accuracy on the order of 1 or 2 inches at that range. It's sometimes used in reconnaissance surveys, and actually some of the Sugar Bush guys use this for setting up pipeline too. So also these, like this one right here, has a telescopic magnification, but you don't see them very often. You'd always have this with a folding 6-foot ruler and go down and be checking your grade that way.
All those.
Yeah. Still used and still can be useful. So the project highlighted this week is the Manchester Rail Rehab Project. That's a VTrans project. We're contracted directly with VTrans to rehabilitate an existing rail bridge over the Batten Kill that was originally constructed around 1900, and our specific scope of work includes replacement of the stringer bottom flange angles, replace selected rivets, replace bottom flange on one of the floor beams, and replace both back walls. One's timber, one's precast concrete that we self-performed. We built it here in the backyard. Install a new timber deck and 400 feet of full depth approach reconstruction. So this work will be done in before June 2018, and we built our own hanging staging system with a full deck to facilitate the work underneath and support our workers above the Batten Kill. We also utilize shutdowns from other contractors working on the other projects, other bridge projects down there to complete the track work, phase the demolition and reconstruction of the bridge. So to replace the bottom flange of the floor beams, we needed to remove the stringers in one bay, which is shown here. So we replaced the bottom flange on the floor beams, and we had to take the stringers out to do that. The stringers run right underneath the tracks, underneath the rail. And the work included nearly 1,000 rivets, which were removed by hand and replaced with high-strength bolts. There's a bat and kill underneath there. And then use our 750 crane, it looks like, to lift the precast back wall sections into place. And that's what we get for photos. And just a note about the bat and kill. Bat and kill is Vermont's most famous trout river. The headwaters are in East Dorset, and it flows west into New York, where it discharges into the Hudson. And the trout and the bat and kill are wild. There are no trout stocked in this river. And wild trout are famously challenging to catch, unlike their stocked cousins in a lot of our other rivers. And from the photo archives, we have the Bridge 501. Trying to get that to roll. There we go. Bridge 501 from the Irene Repairs. That's White River Junction, right, pretty much right in the center downtown of White River Junction. Crosses over the Connecticut River, and it was damaged, and the flood waters pushed it off its piers. And we were down there helping CCS. We were jacking up the bridge so that it could get realigned onto the bearings. So that's what we got, and we've got John and Mark from Northern Benefits, and Doug is here to talk about the new health insurance plan. Right. We'll pass these out.
When you see different faces, you know it's the healthcare discussion time of year. I don't know. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Yeah. Yep, I got it. Is that better for everybody? This is exactly what you have in your packet. I just thought it might be helpful for you guys to look at it while we talk about it here. A copy of this is also in your paychecks, just like we've done every year. And this is a similar format. So, but let me just go through this highlights. The plan's going to change a little bit this year. It seems like things are always changing in healthcare. I'm going to break this if I'm not careful. So the big bullet point at the top is the most important one for all of us. Is that we're looking at about a 26% increase in health insurance costs this year, and this is, and a lot of it is due to the high usage of insurance that the people that are in the ECI plan has had. So this is no different than your car insurance. You pay insurance if you get in a lot of accidents and they pay out a lot of premiums. You're going to get that phone call saying we're going to raise your insurance, and that's similar to what's happened this year. Cigna's had paid a lot of money out towards claims on the insurance that we have, and they're nice people, mostly as nice as insurance people can be. But at the end of the day, they say we can't keep paying out a lot more than we're taking in. We got to raise the rates up to recognize the risk. So that's where we're at. I don't know what the future holds for that. We've talked about this a couple of years since I've been coming to these, that the only way we're going to control our costs is to control our usage, because at the end of the day, the insurance companies are going to charge us essentially what we use. It just sort of spreads the risk out over time, and that's sort of what's happening. So 25% increase in premiums. That said, we're leaving the weekly deductions the same for you guys. But we've changed how the deductibles paid. So the weekly, as you look down here, I'm going to skip down to this table. Last year for a single was $72. This year, the single is at most $72. So what comes out of your paychecks is not going to change if you're a single. It actually might go down a little bit. And the reason for that is we're complying with a part of the Affordable Care Act that makes sure that premiums affordable for people for the single coverage. And John or Mark from Cigna couldn't get in. It's a lot better than I could. But the way we're complying with that is basically saying if you take to determine your premium, if you're a single coverage only, you take your hourly rate of pay and you multiply by 2.86. So as an example, if you made $15 an hour, you multiply by 2.86 and you get $42.90 a week. That's the premium you would pay, not $72. if you make more than $15, the most you would keep doing that math until this number got to be more than 72, and that's the most you would pay. So somebody who makes more than that would never get, no one would ever pay more than 72, but they would basically figure out what they pay by multiplying their hourly rate times 2.86, and that's your weekly premium. So that's something that's new for us that allows us to comply with the affordability part of the Affordable Care Act. So premiums, $72. As I just explained, the rate capped at $72. If you're a double, an employee plus another person, whether it's a spouse or a child, last year you paid $157. This year you'll pay $157. Family, last year was $209. This year's $209. So what's coming out of your paychecks every week, isn't going to change, despite the fact that the premium went up by 26%. The company's absorbing that increase in premiums for you guys, for those of you who pay it every week. Now that's the good news. The flip side of that is the part over here. ECI used to pay 80% of deductible costs, and now the employee will pay 100% of that. So whereas before, when you went to the doctor and you spent $100 in the doctor's bills, you paid $20. The company paid $80 of that. Now that full amount that you go to the doctor is on you, up to the point where you hit your deductible. So for a single, that means when you go to the doctors, you're paying your weekly premiums, and you're going to go to the doctor for an illness, you're going to pay up to $6,000 out of your pocket, and then it's 100% insured. So that's the big change, is that you don't pay any more per week. We're absorbing all that weekly cost, but we're putting it on people that use the insurance more are going to pay more because they're going to be paying more when they go and go to the doctor for the deductible. So this is not, this is never a fun situation to figure out how to solve. You gotta kind of, you gotta be. That's why they put me up in front of you guys instead of someone you like, because this is not a fun conversation to have. But it is what it is, and we think it's as fair a way as we can put out what's going on with the health insurance. So some other detail. Staying with Cigna, the pharmacy coverage. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. When you go to the pharmacy and get a prescription, in the past you would pay $5 for generic, $30 for a brand drug, and $60 for what they call specialty drugs or non-preferred. Those have all gone up a little bit to $20, $50, and $70. So when you go, you pay a little bit more for those. That's painful. It's not, and the same out-of-pocket maximum for a prescription. So as you go to the doctor and start paying your $20, $50, and $70, the most any individual will pay is $1,300. The most a family will pay for prescriptions is $2,600. Preventative care is still 100% covered by the insurer. So if you go to the doctor for preventative care, physical, what are some other? I don't.
It's the stuff. It's the physical. It's the well women visits. It's the annual stuff that you do. It's not to go, and if you have like high blood pressure, it's not if you're going to treat that. But if you don't have any diagnosis there, or if you do have a diagnosis, but you're just going for your annual physical, which is real important, then that's covered at 100%. Right. If they send out lab work, because they're checking your cholesterol and everything else, make sure that gets paid at 100%. Right. Okay. But it's got to be that annual physical.
That's right. So that's covered 100%, and that under the law it has to be, and it's a good thing to have. That's a good preventative piece. So if you don't get a physical, it's not a bad idea to go do it and make sure you can cut off some of the things maybe you see later on that become more expensive issue. You find them earlier. I think I covered that. Anything I didn't talk about?
Yeah, I'll just touch on a couple of things. My name is John Guyette. I'm principal at Northern Benefits, and Doug and I work real hard together to try and put together the best package. And this particular group that we work on, it's just the amount of claims that are coming in. It's one of those things where the insurance company, we farm it out to the carriers that are in the state, and they kind of say, whoa, we don't want to touch this. This is a lot of utilization. And so as in other words, you use the plan. And when you use the plan, the rates go up. And when the rates go up, we got to figure out how to kind of spread it out. And this is the best rate and the best benefit that we possibly could come up with. We vetted everybody. This is not like, oh, hey, let's just give them this. This was a vetted process that took a lot of time. It took us a lot of time to get to where we are here. So for what it's worth, we had a pretty good stretch of kind of giving it the Heisman Trophy for a little while, but it finally came together where we had to pass this increase on. So we thought that these claims might calm down, but there's a lot of ongoing stuff with a lot of people that use it. So that's really the crux of how this whole, that's kind of where we are. So how do you deal with it going further? Well, the way that I look at these things is I want to know what it's going to cost me out of pocket, so that didn't go up. I want to know if I'm going to keep my doctor. You can keep your doctor. You want to know what it's going to be if you take a maintenance medication, so it's going to be $20 or $50. Generally, it's a generic drug, so it's going to be $20 to get your drug. And then the other part of it is what's going to happen if something major happens. So if I have to go up to Fletcher Allen, God forbid it's a catastrophic event, and I'm an individual, okay, this is something that I wanted to tell you guys. If it's just me and I have a wife and I have 3 kids, and I go up to Fletcher Allen and my bill is $100,000, and I have a family plan, just remember, as an individual, the most you're going to pay is $6,050. So it's an individual. It's called a stack deductible. It's not, you don't have to come up with the $12,100 plus the $2,600 for the pharmacy. That's not the case if you just go in as an individual. So to recap that, remember that catastrophic event, worst case scenario, it's a $6,050 bill. You can set up a payment plan with Fletcher Allen. You can pay that over time. What's that?
That's up 66% from this year's.
The deductible's up. That's right. It was about
66%.
It was about 4 and it went to 6.
$3,744 a year annually for what you're paying for health insurance. Now you've got an additional $6,000 or 66% of that deductible added on top. So you're looking at almost $10,000 a year for health insurance if you have an incident.
Well, no, if you're an individual, it was.
How do you what an individual? Is that like one person or the wife? Or what do you mean?
Yeah, so an individual means if you're one person on a single plan, that's an individual. If you have a family plan, any individual person on that plan, whether it's you or your wife or your child, that's also an individual. So no individual would be more than a $6,000 deductible. So if it's a family plan, for instance, I get in a catastrophic event, I go up, it's $100,000. I'm on this plan and I'm a family plan. I pay this. The most I would pay for deductible would be $6,050. My wife, right, per person. My wife the next day gets in a car accident and she's $100,000. The most she pays is $6,050. And at that point, we've hit our family max of $12,100. So if my son then gets hurt in the car accident the next day, this is a bad week for us, he doesn't pay anything more. We've hit our deductible as a family. So that's how it works. I'm not arguing that the rates are good. I'm not arguing that the rates are. It's a lot of money. I agree. This number was at 4,000. It's gone to 6,000. So it increased by 50%.
I think the reality is, like John said, when a lot of these major events are in excess of $100,000, and they occur, as we all know, and it has to get spread out among the users, and that's where we tried to make sure we protected everybody on a weekly basis, keep up on your premiums without having it increase. The flip side of that is the greater exposure, because we couldn't maintain both of the protections on both sides without carrying a huge increase, because already we carried a lot of the hit on the premium. It was necessary to go with the reduction in the deductible side, which is fairly common in everybody's industry now. That's the way it happens. That's the way it's handled. And what it is trying to shift, and it's forcing employers to try to shift some of those burdens to the users who are the highest users, unfortunately, intentionally or not. Right?
Yeah, we had to shift the cost somewhere. I mean, this is go on Vermont Health Connect. This is the plan that you're going to find for just the same amount of money as what it is.
What's the fine if you don't have insurance?
It's up to $2,000. It's somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 if you just say screw it, I'm not having anything.
But then you're in it for $100,000.
But then you're in it for $100,000. So
But that ain't no different than paying it. If you can do a weekly, if you can work out a payment plan, what's the difference if I work out a payment plan with hospital for 100,000? I'm saving a weekly payment. And if I say
That's your choice. Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming
I
from.
mean, that's a lot of money.
But you got to understand that there needs to be some leverage, and the concept of the leverage of why we're here is because, okay, you got a guy that never uses the plan. How are you going to satisfy him? And you got a guy that uses $300,000 a year in supplies, drugs, hospitalization. The list goes on and on.
Right, so the guy who don't
How do
use
you
it's gonna
balance
pay
that
that,
out?
though.
So that's our job.
That's what I don't
This was the best that we could come up with to say, look, if you never use it, you're not going to have to pay any more money. You're in the good. Hey, you use it all the time, you're going to have to start contributing
Right.
more.
And
that was the concept in the model that we had to use to make this go forward.
Right. To answer your question, one of the options we had with a 26% increase was to say, let's just increase all the premiums 26%. Let's increase the family to $250 a week. Let's increase all the premiums that, and that means everybody here every week, whether you're sick or not, is going to pay more. And what we decided to do instead was say, you know what, let's see if we can keep those flat because they're already a lot of money every week anyway. And let's change the deductible structure so that, as John said, the people that are using it more are the ones that are going to pay more. And those who don't use it are still paying the same amount they paid last year in premium. So if you're a healthy person and don't go to the doctor, this plan doesn't affect you very much because you're paying the same premium you paid last year. If you do use it a lot, the reality is it is going to affect you because you've got higher deductibles. And it's not fun math to do either way. This is the best solution we could figure out to try to make the people that are using it and the cost for it somewhere match up.
And I think what's hurting most are the drug costs. Drug companies are just, they whack the new drugs with a huge premium, thousands of percent over the real cost because they need to recover all the research.
And a lot of this is because we had catastrophic problems this year.
No, it's been ongoing, and we've sort of like gone to the insurance company, and they've said, okay, well, the claims will turn around, but because of the demographics, age, ongoing claims, they haven't calmed down. So if you spend $300,000 in premium and you use $600,000 in services, the insurance company is saying, I got to make up for this. I got to make up for it. So it's not like it's Cigna. I went out to Blue Cross, to MVP, to CVA. I mean, we vetted this to every carrier in the state, and everyone was higher than what we were here. So we got you the best benefit for the best rate. It is what it is. How can we turn it around? Don't use it.
Well,
it's not the reality.
It's the analogy of driving is,
But it's pretty much profiling. I mean, you're taking a company, okay, you're labeling ECI because people are sick or they have incidents. You can't control this gentleman for having cancer or that person for getting in a car accident, but the insurance companies are going to penalize people for that?
You're right. We go in under the rules. We go in as a group. Because of our size of our company, we're as a group, and we get rated as a group. That's how we buy insurance for ECI. The solution to this would be, and then we'll get, is the concept of single payer where everyone's in the same group, the whole country, and we pay for insurance differently because then, to your point, we're all in a big pool. And when you put a splash into an ocean, it doesn't make as much difference as a splash into a pond. But we're a pond right now, and that's what we have. We can't get into a bigger pool right now. This is the pool we got.
Right, but it's not just a pool. You're picking a fish out of the pond is what you're doing because you've got all these other companies that are invested in this health insurance. You're going, oh, well, this fish is a little bit bigger. Throw him out or charge him a little bit more.
Well, we're actually getting, like John said, our rates are essentially what the statewide pool is for if you go through the Vermont
Health.
The
exchange rates are.
It's basically, it's not, we just aren't getting any extra good benefit from our group. We're at the average, pretty much the average for the state in that exchange.
See, if you have over 100 employees, you can't go into Vermont Health Connect.
So
they won't allow you to do it. So you're on your
reason
own.
for the increase of the deductible is on the employees end?
Yeah. So the reason for the increase in deductible employees, with looking at a 26% increase overall, we had a choice of increasing premiums 26% and keeping the deductible math similar, which basically means that everybody in this room pays for whether you're healthy or sick, pays for those that are sick. Or we said we're going to try to keep the premiums flat and change the deductible, which, as Ken said, shifts essentially the cost for use of the health care more towards those who are using it. Those were our choices. We could have gone up 25% on premium.
So it's more of a penalty on an individual basis.
I don't know. I think we're trying to recognize where the costs are and where the payment should be. That's all. I mean, I don't know. I guess you can determine however you like. We tried to do what we thought was most palatable, which is if you don't know if you're going to use insurance, you'd rather not pay a premium, right?
Yeah, but you never know if you're going to use it. You could get a car accident.
Absolutely. You're right. You're absolutely right.
But you might be fine for 10 years.
Right.
It's kind of.
And you might have saved that premium for 10 years. And if you could say, listen, I should have paid an extra, not should have, but I could have paid an extra 25%. I'll put that away now, and I didn't pay it every week. And when I go to the doctors, I've got some money to pay for the extra deductible. There's an option too. I'm not, it's a hard thing to do.
All the options suck.
That's
what it comes down to. It all sucks.
Dying, you know, by the sound.
I don't want to be
to that too.
one last. So I don't want to cut the conversation short. I want to be aware of the time. The glimmer of good news is if you take a dental plan, the prices went down a little bit. So this is all in your thing. I won't go over the details, but we're down, I don't know, 50 cents a week or something, more or less. So that's dental is moving in the right direction, thankfully. And then the housekeeping things, again, this is in your paycheck. You have to be employed at ECI as of November 1st of this year to participate in this. That's the 60-day waiting period. Sarah or folks down here in the office have details if people want. And if you want to, and the forms, if you want to enroll, need to be sent back in by Friday the 1st. As Ken said earlier, if you're already enrolled, I don't think you need to do anything. You're just going to continue to be enrolled. But if you want to make a change or you want to enroll, your forms need to be in by Friday the 1st.
Ken, does this take effect as of January 1st?
Yep.
Midnight, the first second of 2018.
Well, your payments start as of next
right.
Wednesday because it always has to be paid a month in advance. So
Although,
we start these premiums. Well, we're not changing anything. It's just this won't take effect of all these changes in deductibles until the first of the year. But our payments are not going to change now. So
Unless it goes down for
Correct.
single.
Right. Ron?
Doug, what's the difference between the premium and preferred?
Oh. John, what's the dental, John? Do you remember the difference between the premium plus and the preferred plus and the dental?
Yeah, it's just the way that they changed, Delta Dental changed the verbiage on the network. Essentially nothing. It's just it was a name change on the.
But there's
right now I pay the I'm in the premium.
You're in a little more, and you could be going down here. The question is, what is the difference if you save $2 a week?
Okay.
Sarah, I don't know the details, but Sarah does. If you don't mind, Ron, I appreciate it. Sorry, I don't have all the details on the difference.
It's a network piece, but you can't really get at a network with Delta Dental. It's virtually impossible.
There she is.
There's a copay in the lower one, and there isn't on the first one.
Okay.
Nice, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sarah.
Usually go to the doctor here, help your
Everybody's here.
Eric Merriman.
And as they come and go,
Michael Bryan.
Good question.
Adam Piper. Andy Piper.
Not that me, I don't have.
Jennifer Bondan.
The model that you laid out, you can back it so
It's true.
John Ross. Kyle Farrell.
I come to that.
Claire. Bill Peppery.
Hey, Doug.
Right?
Oh, hey.
Never good together. Way to win is don't smoke. Watch your weight, stay healthy, and if you
Couldn't stop.
Big change. So what you do to, like, you gotta do something to replace that, right? But like behaviorally, it seems like you gotta do something different. You gotta do something different.
Oh, that's good. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey,
you would look better in Kevlar. I didn't do beer. You're out of your seat. All I can think of is when you got upstairs. I don't have
Want me to walk out with you and make sure you're okay?
Like this stuff. Yeah. Like you can get emails or you can get it.
Yeah. I don't want to.
But you don't get that. The company wants to know about it, so we're asking, do you want paper or do you want?
But if you didn't have insurance, you'd be in forever.
It's a bear. I was reading the news the other day, you know, they talk about this example, they spend $10,000 or $12,000 on premiums in a year, and then the deductibles and that, so that if you look at any insurance, so you've actually got about $25,000 out of pocket. Oh my God! That's a good for your insurance.
I think on this, we can say policy is the same as the market.
I think it's cheaper, essentially. Cheaper. I don't know, but I mean, certainly for what these guys pay, it's a lot less than the exchange. I don't know about our premiums overall.
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's like,
but basically, but the point is, the view of the guy, right? From their perspective, we just, whatever benefit we had has been